Dan Sinker is a journalist, multimedia artist, designer, and maker. In 2024, he built the imaginary town Ohio with the novelist Joe Mino and produced the podcast Rebel Spirit about Akilah Hughes' attempt to change her high school's racist mascot. He is the co-host of the long-running podcast Says Who, and in another timeline was the founder of Punk Planet magazine. He also, if you didn't know it, wrote the @Mayor Emanuel Twitter account. Who didn't know that? All right, good. You are Chicagoans. Okay, Dan, take us out. Where to?
Great. That's perfect because I got a sec to balance things.
Yeah. This goes up.
Does it? All right. Perfect. Look at that. Oh, look at that.
I know. Swivels.
I love it. All right. I have 3 pages and it fits 2. Perfect.
Oh, sorry.
I got this. I got that. We're good to go. I need my guy. There he is. This is Mickey. You were talking about someone else's height. Yeah. Yeah.
Dan and I have known each other a while now. I'm not ashamed to tell you that if I need to kick him in the kneecaps, I can do it from here.
She can.
The legs. So see, that's what you got to learn to do.
I got you. Happy birthday.
That was the best present.
I spent much of the day after the election in the lobby of a Hampton Inn waiting for a room to open up, and I was reading about this man, George Dale. Now, George Dale was the editor of the Muncie Post-Democrat in the 1920s, and George Dale fucking hated the Ku Klux Klan. Now, hating the Klan in the 20s meant making a lot of enemies, because the Invisible Empire, as the Klan was known back then, was everywhere. And in Indiana, that was especially true. In Indiana, the governor and half of the General Assembly in the 20s were members of the Klan. And in Muncie, where George worked, this is Muncie's Klan, 1922. In Muncie, the county judges, all the cops, and the fire department were all Klan. We know this because George Dale fearlessly printed their names in his newspaper. And it cost him nearly everything. I want to tell you more about George. I want to tell you about how he was shot by the Klan and how he actually wrestled the fucking gun from a guy and killed a man. I want to tell you about how he was sent to a penal colony for libel. But instead, I want to read you an excerpt from what I read after Election Day at that Hampton Inn. I read this letter that George wrote in 1927. For nearly 5 years, my newspaper has voiced its deadly opposition to the wave of intolerance and bigotry which has made the name of Indiana a byword in every section of our republic. Possibly you may have read in your local newspaper accounts of the reprisals visited upon me because of my unalterable opposition to Klan domination of local and state affairs. These attacks have ranged from repeated attempts at murder to endless criminal prosecutions initiated by Klan-packed juries and convictions before judges who prostituted their oaths of office by taking orders from a traitorous organization which has no place in free America. While other Indiana newspapers sought the cyclone cellar until the storm passed, mine alone stood in no man's land and faced a tornado of wrath and cruelty. I lost my advertising, most of my subscribers, my home, my liberty, and every dollar I had in the world. I lost all but a few loyal friends, my devoted family, and all but lost my newspaper. But thank God I retained the pearl of great price, my self-respect. 2 years after he wrote that letter, George Dale was elected mayor of Muncie, Indiana. His first act was to fire the entire police and fire departments. In 15 days, Donald Trump will become president again. In the weeks leading up to the election, the LA Times and the Washington Post both pulled endorsements of Kamala Harris. In the weeks after, ABC News settled the defamation suit that they almost certainly would have won, and tech companies have given 1 million by 1 million by 1 million to his inaugural campaign. We've been asked tonight where to, and my roadmap lies with figures like George Dale, not with companies and news organizations that have already bent the knee. Because George knew that to fight fascism, to triumph over hate and tyranny, you can bend, you cannot bend, you cannot break. And that while the cost may be great, you can win if you retain your self-respect.